Hello everyone, welcome to the 14th session of this history class of class 9, second chapter, Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. As we have already completed 13th session of this chapter. And what was the last topic? The last topic we did on 13th session was the Civil War. And the today's topic is the making of socialist society. I just want to recapitulate what we did on the last topic, that means on 13th session, the Civil War. We saw the change of attitude of Bolshevik on that topic. In the Civil War, we saw Bolshevik attitude, the change of attitude. We saw how Bolshevik turned over the people. How was the reaction of the people? What the people thought about the Bolshevik party. Isn't it? We saw red Bolshevik, green socialist revolutionaries, white the pro-Tsarists, the supporters of the king, and we can see like Bolshevik were alone at the time. Green and white, that means socialist revolutionaries and pro-Tsarists were together fighting against the Bolshevik, isn't it? So somehow Bolshevik they try to fight against these two, that means socialist revolutionaries and pro-Tsarist. We also saw that they controlled most of the Russian Empire, who socialist revolutionaries and pro-Tsarists. They were also supported by French, American and British. We saw that army began to break up, isn't it, due to the land distribution, because they were also a peasant first and also they want their land back. So they started breaking up the army. So we saw a different situation in this civil war. But finally, what happened slowly, we can see that Bolshevik was success to make their position in Russia. Now in this topic, the making of socialist society, we'll read about the Bolshevik, how they tried to make a socialist society. Making a socialist society. Now during the Civil War, what happened? The Bolshevik kept industries and banks nationalized, because it was the theory of Vladimir Lenin, right? The Bolshevik theory, what? To keep this bank nationalized. Now not only bank was nationalized, but industries were also kept nationalized. That means under the government. There was no any personal owner of bank or any industries. So that means now banks and industries are under government. No any personal owner. No single individual owner of this industries and banks. Now they permitted peasants to cultivate the land that had been socialized. Now the Bolshevik, what they did, they started giving up permissions to the peasants to cultivate the land which was distributed among them. Now somehow this is how Bolshevik is trying to make a society, a socialist society, because they already have their theme was like to make a socialism in Europe, right? To make a socialist society. Now Bolshevik used confiscated land to demonstrate what collective work could be. So what happened? Not only banks and industries were nationalized, but what happened? Slowly everything they were trying to make everyone socialist. Now even like they were like, what type of performance was doing over there? The work was performed collectively. The work was performed collectively in what type of land? In confiscated land, the land which was under royal, like nobles, clergy and all, because these people used to have a huge land. So in this confiscated land, now the Bolshevik is trying to make a people like peasants to work in a collective, to work in a group. Centralized planning was also introduced. A process of centralized planning was introduced in Russia. Now what do you mean by centralized planning? Now Bolshevik is already taking over the government now. Now whatever the plan, who will take it over? The government. Now whatever the plan the government will make, the people have to follow that rules and laws. So this is how the Bolshevik is trying to make a society a socialist. Official assessed how the economy could work and set targets for 5-year period. On this basis, they made the 5-year plans. Now, what happened? Now they started working on a 5-year plans now. For an example, every countries have their own plan. They make a budget. Even in India, they make a budget of 5 years, right? Or yearly by yearly. There are certain terms and conditions of each and every countries. Now, when the government comes, they win in vote elections and all. When they establish their power in country in the central government, they also have a plan. So this Bolshevik also, they try to go for a 5-year plans to set a target for economy upcoming. That means to fight against the economic of the country. That means to set up a balanced economy of the country. So this Bolshevik is trying to plan for a 5-year plans. Now during this plan, what happened? The government fixed all prices to promote industrial growth during the first two plans. That means the first two plans during these first two plans, the government fixed the prices of each and every thing to keep what? Economic balance. The first 5-year plan was in which year? In 1927 to 1932, and the second year 5-year plan was in 1933 to 1938. Centralized planning led to economic growth. Somehow, whichever the government was planning, whichever the government planned, that government planning was working very smoothly, and there was always a positive response. And what type of positive response? That the planning led to the economic growth. That means somehow they found a growth in economic. Industrial productions increased between 1929 and 1933. Between 1929 and 1933, there was an economic growth. That means somehow increase in industrial productions by 100%. So that means somehow this was an advantage for the Bolshevik party. And what type of industrial productions? Productions like in case of oil, coal and steel. Somehow in these things, somehow they were getting 100% growth. New factory cities came into being. Somehow the economy was getting better and better of the country. Industries was getting established. More and more factories were getting established, industries were getting established. So somehow the countries, that means the economic, main country development performance, this depend on economic condition. So somehow the economic conditions of this country was improving. So because of this only, what happened? New factories, cities came into being. That means new factories and industries and cities were being established. But now see, however, rapid construction led to a poor working conditions. Now, however, there is always a dark side of each and everything. Now, if it is, there is always a day, and after that night, isn't it? So somehow there is always a negative and a positive side. Now we saw of somehow the positive side of this economic growth of the country, of the Bolshevik party, whatever they are doing. Now we'll come to the darker side of this, that means the negative side of the party. What are the negative things that occurred during this economic growth? However, rapid constructions led to a poor working conditions. In the city of Magnitogorsk, the construction of steel plant was achieved in 3 years. That means in this place, that means in which place, a city of Magnitogorsk, the construction of steel plant took how many years to construct? 3 years to construct. So that means somehow we can see a negative vibe on these things. Another, workers lived hard lives, and the result was 550 stoppages of work in the first year alone. That means during this 5-year plan, during the first year, what happened? There was how many stoppages? 550 50 stoppage. That means somehow there was you can see there was a problem during this time. Maybe some demands, maybe some requirement was unfulfilled. So that is the reason that during this first year, that means 365 days, right? During these 365 days, there were 550 stoppages of the work. In living quarters in the winter time at minus 40 degree below, people had to climb down from the 4th floor and dash across the street in the order to go to the toilet. From this, we come to know that there was no proper sanitary system, because there was no proper sanitary system for the worker. Now just think, in minus 40 degree, for a single toilet, they have to come down 3 to 4th floor down to the roadside, cross the road and go for the toilet. Is it possible? Now think, for an example, we people only during winter time, isn't it? We won't be able to go to toilet at midnight. It's too cold, right? You're feeling warm inside the blanket and you don't want to just take out your blanket and go to toilet. No one wants. But see the condition of this worker in minus 40 degree. What happened? They had to climb down from the 4th floor and dash across the street in order to go to toilet. Besides that, they did not have any option. So somehow this is a negative disadvantage during this economic growth of the country. Now question is, what are there any efforts made by government to improve this situation now? You can say, like, did government took any effort to improve this situation? Now let's see in this paragraph. An extended schooling system developed. Somehow the government tried to make these things in balance. Somehow the government is putting its effort to make this normalcy. You can see now the government introduced a schooling system. You can see page number 43. On the right hand side, you can see the first picture, figure 15. Children at school in Soviet Russia in the 1930s. They are studying the Soviet economy. So somehow the students, the school, the opportunity, the parents, son and daughters and all the children, they got an opportunity to go to the school. Somehow this is somehow how the country, how the government tried to improve. Not only that, an arrangement were made for factory workers and peasants to enter university. So that means there was a system, they made a system to make a systematic manner. They made an arrangement for the factory workers and peasants to enter universities. They also gave an opportunities for how to enter the universities. That means the further studies. Now creches were established in factories for the children of women workers. Now the creches were made for whom? They were established in the factories for the children of women workers. Now creches means it's to look after the children. Like you can see, it's a type of a house. Creches is called a creches, where, like, if women are working in a factories, if women have some babies, small children or babies, so these babies were kept in the creches. So that means there were kept any individual persons to look after the baby, so that women can go independently and work in the factory. The women don't have to look after the baby. So that means there were kept a different person to look after the baby. So in a crèche house, it is called a crèche house. Cheap public health care were also provided. So that means cheap means in a less amount of money. That means now the workers also can get a health facility in a very cheap. That means cheap means sasta, isn't it? In a very cheap rate, medical facility. So that means each and every patient can afford for that medical aids and all. Model living quarters were set up for workers. Now model type of quarters were made for the workers, so they don't have to go down to from the 4th floor crossing the street for the toilet in minus 40 degree. Somehow they gave a good facility to the workers. The effect of all this was uneven, though since government resources were limited. Somehow the government, they tried to make somehow somehow good for the peasants. The government, they try to make a better way of living for the peasants. They try as much as they can, though the government resources were limited, you can say. However, all this impact of all these efforts was limited because the resources of the government were very limited. So though the government, they try to make the life of the peasants comfortable. So that means in this topic we can see the Bolshevik is trying to make somehow the people's life easy. We saw the advantage side and also we saw the disadvantage side, and also the government tried to give a solution of these problems, isn't it? In the first topic we saw how they gave a facility to the peasants and all, right? We saw the disadvantage things, right? How the peasants, they faced, isn't it, the problems and all. And at the last topic we saw that how the government tried to improve the facility to for the peasants. So somehow they try to resolve, though the limited resources, though the government have limited resources, though in this limited resources also they try to improve the life of the people, that means of the peasants. So that means, so this is how the Bolshevik try to look after the peasants. Okay guys, hope you understood this topic. Make sure if you have any doubts and all, please leave in the comments so I'll answer your queries and all. Okay, till then, take care. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you.